like it every time. Really wanna see you. Scared to show up every time I'm caught up. Will you see me as I always showed you?
Hello, creators. I hope you're doing well. I'm working up in my studio, my office, and I am going to try to replicate the session 1 that we had yesterday. Tomorrow, by the way, is Winnie the Pooh Day. Excited for that. Can't wait. So you can see my screen here, and there's the world. I think the world is a good place with good people doing awesome things. I'm going to revise that. A great place. Good people doing awesome things. You don't have to join me in that belief, but believe that I believe. I hope you believe it. So let's, why don't we get rid of that music? And I'm going to take you through the flash drive scenario. So, and you know, the good thing about this video is if you missed class, this will catch you up. And if you were at class, but you need a little bit of a refresher, you can just scrub through and pause and stop and move ahead if you think you've already mastered what I'm talking about. But we have these flash drives. Everybody's going to get a flash drive. So if you missed class, I have them for you. They're right here. That's one of them right there. And they're 32 gigabytes. And on that flash drive is everything you need for assignment 1. So let's pull open the Finder window, shall we? And there is the drive name right there. Let's see. Okay. So the drive name right there is a creator. Everybody has the same one. And inside that, there is this folder called Creator Assignment 1 right there. So right now, when you get yours for the first time, those of you who missed class, you're going to have 4 folders in here: the animals, the human, the music beds, and the VO. You won't see this one in there. We created this one in class, and this was my assignment. So you're going to see how that's going to happen. But anyway, let's move forward. So now we need to open Audition. So Audition is the software that we're going to do this session in and our first assignment in. So when you open Audition, it's not going to open that fast, by the way. I've already got it open and I'm just maximizing it. The first thing that we did in class and the first thing that I want you to do is go up to Window and go to Workspace here. And then come over to Radio Production. So what we're looking at here is the user interface. And so that we're all on the same user interface, we're going to select Radio Production. Now, your Adobe Audition session should look like this. There should be some tools up here. There should be a waveform and a multi-track button here. We're going to be in multi-track for starters. And then there's going to be a nice panel here, a card here. There's going to be a panel here that's going to have a bunch of different things in it. So there's properties, there's effects rack, there's markers, the metadata. It can be really overwhelming. So if you've never used an audio editing workstation before, digital audio workstation, DAW, don't worry about it. This can be really overwhelming. I was overwhelmed the first time I used it. So let's just say that for now, I just want you to click on Effects Rack and just know that this is where we're going to make some effects. And then down here in this card here, there is the ability to see what you have done, the steps you have taken, and to undo things here. So there's going to be a list of history created here. Well, let's not worry about the video for now. And along the bottom is going to be this level meter, and this is going to turn yellow and green and yellow and red. You'll see, I'm going to show examples of when we play audio. Here are some transport controls like you're used to: stop, play, record, things like that. But there's a much easier way to just play the playhead and stop the playhead, and I'm going to show you that in a moment. So I think this is everything that we covered in class. So, but to start for this project, we're going to create a multi-track session. You have 2 choices here: waveform or multi-track. And we want this guy, multitrack, right here. So let's click on multitrack. Now, the first thing that's going to happen is it's going to want you to name this session. So yesterday I called it Dan Assignment 1, and I'm going to say Dan Assignment 1 again. Or let's say demo. Yeah, no, all right, again. So, and now, after I've named it, oh yeah, the other thing I said the other day in class was, let's get in the habit of not having spaces in names, but, excuse me, having underscores instead of spaces. So I've got Dan underscore assignment underscore 1 underscore again. And now I'm going to browse, and we're going to put that in this creator flash drive. And we're going to say choose. It's not going to go there yet. We still have a couple of other things to do. So now I have it titled. I know where it's going. I know where I'm going to place this file and where I'm going to get it again. It's going to be on our flash drives. And the template, we're going to keep this at none. If this has defaulted to some other value, let's go to none. And for the sample rate, we're going to choose 44100. And I'll explain sample rate and bit depth later. And then for bit depth, we're going to choose 16. And then this mix can be mono or stereo. I tend to use mono because all podcasting, believe it or not, is in mono. So I'm going to click OK here. And now you see I've got multiple tracks. I've got 6 tracks and a mix track. So now we can drag and drop audio in there. And that's why I created the flash drive. It has everything we need for assignment 1. And I'll take you through step by step. So let's see. The first thing we did was we pulled in my voiceover. So here's my voiceover narration. And I've got to get that guy over here. So I'm actually going to pull my Finder window in over here so you can see exactly what I'm doing. So let me pull this guy here and go in here with it. Okay, now I've got my Finder. It's a little too big. So why don't I resize that? Okay. So here's my voiceover. It's Dan _VO narration. It's a book. Here it is. Oh, my headphones won't reach. There we go. It's a few pages of this great book, An Immense World by Ed Yong. And I'm just going to grab it and drag it. I think I am. There I am. I'm going to drag it and I'm going to put it in track 1. So I'm going to let it go. And now I see some waveform here. This is my voice. This is the playhead, this yellow line and this blue toggle up here. I can grab it and I can move it anywhere I want. Or I can just hit the space bar. Watch this. And when I hit my keys, you're going to see an immense world. Down there, animal senses reveal the hidden realms around us. My keystrokes will be down there. So I hit, I muted it by accident. So I'm hitting the space bar. World. How animal senses to make the playhead run, and I'm hitting space bar to make the playhead stop. Reveal the hidden realms around us. As I showed before, if you grab this blue button up here, you can move that playhead around all you want. And also, let's talk about these controls up here just a little bit. If you hover over these, you'll see this is the move tool. This is the razor blade. This is the slip tool. This is the time selection tool. We're going to be using mostly the move tool and the time selection tool. And by the way, to toggle between those really easily, if you hit the T, you now have this selected. The T will select the time selection tool, and it turns into this little bracket thing. It looks like an eye. It looks like a weird eye. But if you don't feel like going all the way up here to click on this move tool, just hit the V. I'll just keep it over here, and I'll hit the V key. And now I'm on the move tool. So the difference is the move tool does a lot of cool functions. Like I can move this track around. I can move it on the timeline. I can move it down below and put it on track 2. I can move it up, back up. I can put it anywhere I want. And the time selection tool is useful because when I have that selected, I can just click anywhere I want and move that playhead too. That's what I really wanted to show you, was the bunch of different ways to move the playhead. And someone in class actually said, I forget who came up, but this is really cool. And I didn't know this. You can come down here and put in a timestamp down here, and it will go directly to, like, so if you get a marker or you know something, you can go right here and it'll take you right there. So that's really cool. Okay, now we're only looking at 2 seconds, 4 seconds. We're looking at 28 seconds or so, 30 seconds of this project. This narration that I recorded is rather long, and I want you to see the whole thing. So on the keyboard, there's this key, and on Macs, it's just under the delete key. It's actually a straight bracket and a backslash, but the keystroke's going to come up as that backslash there. But this will pull you all the way out. Now we're looking at over 8 minutes of me talking. Reveal the hidden realms around us. I just hit the space bar by Ed Young. Narrated by Dan Tebow. And you can see, for Liz Neely, who sees me. Down here, there's the level meter. How do you know but every bird that cuts the airy way is an immense world of delight, closed by your senses 5. Okay, so it goes on for 8 minutes. In the flash drive, there are some other effects and music that we're going to add to this. But the first thing I want you to notice is this waveform. And this waveform has a dynamic range. And the high points here and the low points there are expressed in decibel levels. And the dynamic range is the difference between the lowest points and the highest points. The lowest point is like maybe right here. I'm going to use my equal key to move in now. And we can get in there really close. That's the lowest dynamic range there. And this is probably one of the highest right there. The bumblebee can't, and you can see it went into the red. The bumblebee can't, a little bit of red came in there. Okay, so what we did in class, and what the first thing that you should do to any voiceover file, first of all, you can do it with other files too, but any kind of narration, is to bring those lower parts up and some of the peaks down and compress the file so that it's pretty much the same volume. I recorded that right here in this room. I had good production values. I don't have a soundproof room, but I've got a pretty quiet room, and I've got a decent microphone. And I still, when I speak, I don't speak in a level volume voice the whole time. Monotone is a different issue, but volume, I don't keep my volume the same. And you don't want to, because you're trying to be effectual when you're trying to tell a story, you're trying to draw people in, and you need to vary the tone of your voice and the volume of your voice. And that comes through naturally even after you compress a file. So let's do that. Let's compress this file. And we're going to do that in the waveform editor. So, and the reason why we're going to do that is because we could compress this file here. I'll show you that in a little bit. But we won't see this waveform change. I don't know why Adobe does that. I don't like that. I like to see this waveform change, at least for the first couple of times. I think you should see it so that you can see that dynamic range change. And you'll see what I mean in a moment. So now that we have this track selected right here, we can go to waveform, and now we can see that waveform. We're looking at all 8 minutes here. And you can see those peaks and valleys here. So let's compress this file and let's watch the waveform change. Now, the thing to know about waveform editing, this is intro to audio, so we're not going to spend a lot of time in here. There's a lot of advanced things you can do here. But anything you do here in waveform editor is permanent. It's destructive. It's called destructive editing. And after I save and close this program and come back in here, I cannot change. I cannot undo what I did in waveform editor. We can in multitrack, but not in waveform. But I want you to see this waveform change. So now we're going to go up to effects. And we're going to drop down to amplitude and compression. And we're going to go to dynamics. And we're going to get a dialog window here with lots of buttons on it and lots of knobs and meters. Just know that we're not going to use auto gate. So if this is checked on, check that off. And we're not going to use expander, so that should be checked off, but we are going to use compressor. So let's enable the compressor by checking it on. And the only 3 granular controls we're going to use on this compression right now are the threshold, the ratio, and the makeup gain. And for this purpose, we're going to set it at 18, 4, and 10. Threshold will be 18, ratio will be 4, makeup will be 10. The easiest way to do it is to click in there, and now you can change the values right in there by typing them in. If this was at 1, which I think it defaults to, you're just going to hit 4. Oops, that's 14. And then 10 down here. And note we have an on-off button. We have an apply button. And when we apply, you're going to see this waveform change. So I'm going to hit that apply button right now. And look at that. That's a thing of beauty. It's really level now. And when we go back into multi-track, we're going to see the waveform has changed in multi-track. And there it is. That is a thing of beauty. That's much better than it was. And it's easier to listen to. It's going to be, especially you're in the car and, you're listening to a podcast and all of a sudden the host is really loud and then the guest is speaking. You got to go turn the volume up. This is going to go a long way to be a better listening experience with all the nuances still in there. The only true voyage. Imagine an elephant in a room. This elephant is not the proverbial weighty issue. And it also increased the overall volume of the track. And you can see that down here. But an actual weighty mammal. Imagine the room is spacious enough to accommodate. It's hitting the red a little bit. So we compress the file, and now we're going to throw a limiter on the file. And we're going to shut the door somewhere around, let's do it at minus 12 dB right here. So I want to make that stop
Make it
right
a school
around
gym.
here. And the way we're going to do that is by choosing an effect. This time we're going to stay in multi-track. And anything we do in multi-track can be undone at any time. So we're going to go here. We're going to have effects rack selected. And we're going to go to this top slot and hit the white arrow. And you're going to have the same menu as we did at the drop down up top. But this time we're going to go into amplitude and compression. And we're going to slide down to hard limiter. So now in hard limiter, I'm sorry about all the coughing and mouth noises, but it's part of the trade. We're going to go here, and the only granular control we're going to go here is with maximum amplitude, and we're going to go minus 12 dB and enter. And now with this window still open, I'm going to hit the space bar and we can listen to the difference and see the difference on the meter.
Now imagine a mouse has scurried in too. A robin hops alongside it. An owl perches on an overhead.
So we've done 2 really basic but necessary things. Most audio producers, this is the first 2 things that they'll do in an editing program is to compress the file and limit the file. Now note that this window is still up. I can close this window and the effect is still taking place. It's still here. I can go back in now and I can remove the effect or edit the effect. I'm going to keep it. I like this effect. I want it in there. I don't want to remove it, but I want, I come back and I want to change it a little bit. Well, I can.
Beam. A bat hangs upside down from the ceiling.
I can even toggle this effect on and off real time and hear the difference.
A rattlesnake slithers across the floor.
I just turned the effect
A
off.
spider has spun a web in a corner. A mosquito buzzes through the air. A bumblebee sits upon a potted
Turn the effect
sunflower.
back on.
Finally, in the midst of...
I'll get rid of this panel. The effect is still there. I can even do it here now too.
this increasingly crowded hypothetical space, add a human. Let's call her Rebecca. She's sighted, curious, and thankfully fond of animals.
So I can turn the effect on and off at will anytime I want. I can see it over here. It's here. I can also do something on this track, which might be helpful. I can click up in here in track number 1, and I can name this Dan voiceover. And let's do a couple of ripple deletes now too, okay? So we've limited the file. And I'm looking at the entire file right now, but I want to drill into this area. This looks interesting right here. I'm going to hit my equal key, which is also the plus key. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to take a look at this. What is this over here? I'm shuffling some papers or something there.
How do you know but every...
All right, so you know what? Let's get rid of that. I'm in the time selection tool, this guy, T. And I have just dragged that area. Oh, and let's do this. I didn't do this in class. See this little blue arrow here, this loop playback? Enable that. Turn it blue, make it blue. And now when I hit my space bar, that highlighted area is going to loop. And this is helpful because it lets you know this is the section I really want to take out. Okay, so here's how you do a ripple delete. This is a little bit more convenient than using the blade tool. You hit Shift, this is on a Mac, Command, Delete. And you can see I've created a cut in that clip. Now I have 2 clips. This whole track is turned into 2 clips, one here and one there. And I've got this separator here, but I shut the door and pulled everything back. So I'm going to undo that by hitting Command Z. By the way, hitting Command Z is like going back in history here. Okay? So anytime you want to just undo what you just did, you can Command Z. And you can Command Z the thing you just did and the thing before that and before that. And you can go backwards in time by just hitting Command Z over and over again. But I just hit it once to get back to here. Say I wanted to use the blade tool. Here's why I think, I've got the blade tool grabbed there. I made a cut. But now I've got to pull this back and drag this back over. So I've got to use the move tool. And I can now, when it turns into this red bracket, I can now pull this here and I can now drag this over here. So it's the same thing, but it was 3 steps.
Liz Neely, who sees me. How do you know but every...
Okay. Maybe, though, I want a gap in there. So I can do that.
Or Liz Neely, who sees me.
That gray spot there is...
How do you know but...
I know it bugs me, it bothers me, and it bothers some people, but it's okay to do that as well.
Or Liz Neely, who sees me.
I think I'm going to leave it there. I think I'm actually going to leave that gap there. But now you know different ways of making cuts. So there's the ripple delete, which is Shift Command Delete. Or you could use the blade tool, cut, resize this track, move this track anywhere you want. You have all kinds of flexibility, and your workflow is going to be, you're going to develop your own workflow. You're not going to develop my workflow necessarily. It's whatever's more comfortable for you. Let's see, what's going on over here? Looks like mouth noises to me.
Blake. Introduction.
It's more, okay, so that's more shuffling the paper and hitting the desk. Let's go back to the time selection tool. And this time, let's not cut, let's silence that area. I'm just going to go that way just a little bit. Okay, so to silence this area, we're going to go up into clip and we're going to silence time selection in clips. And now what you can see happen there is that yellow line dropped down. That yellow line, by the way, let's talk about that.
William Blake. Introduction.
Okay. That yellow line is a volume line, and it can be manipulated. I can grab that yellow line, drag it up and down.
For Liz Neal.
I can also create points on that line by clicking directly on that line and lower the volume manually if I want to whatever desired level I want.
Only true voyage. Imagine an elephant.
Don't really want to do that. I just wanted to demonstrate it and show you that you can do it. I'm going to remove that keyframe. That's what I'm creating, are keyframes. Now the keyframes got created here on its own when we highlighted and went up to clip and selected silence time selection and clip. And I can still manipulate these. You know, I don't want all the ambient noise to come out because it sounded really weird when it just went silent.
William Blake. Introduction. The only.
Okay. I'm going to bring that down just a little bit.
Introduction. The only.
See, I'm moving my chair as I speak there, so there's nothing I'm going to do about that right now. Okay, let's come back out by hitting the minus key, and let's take a look at what we got here.
An immense world. How animal senses reveal the hidden realms around us.
All right. I'm going to show you a nice little trick now because this gap in here does bother people, and it bothers me. At any time, if I want to be in this move tool and highlight these two segments here, I can highlight them both and I can merge these two clips together by going up to clip and merge clips. There, the wound is gone. It's whole again. Now, you're going to make many, many cuts, and you're going to see all these gaps and cuts. And I've learned to not let it bother me and not to do this every single time. But in this case, I just wanted to show you that we now have one whole clip again. And, you know, there's advantages because there's this volume control down here. And I could change the volume here if I wanted to. I don't need to because we did the compression and the limiting. So I'm going to undo that by hitting Command Z. And I brought it back to where it was.
How animal senses reveal the hidden.
But I want to be able to move that entire track right now because we're going to drop some music in there. And we're going to fade that music out. And as I start talking, we're going to have the music bed duck down under my voice. So if I bring up my Finder window again and I go into music beds this time from my drive, the A Creator drive, I'm going to grab this Lo-Fi Vortex. It's a royalty-free track I got from a program that I have, and I'm just going to drag it and I'm going to drop it in there. I hope the volume isn't too loud here for this tutorial. Let me get that down. Okay, I'm going to bring that down. I'm going to bring the overall volume of this track down by hovering over this little area here that looks like a, your cell signal on your phone. How many bars you got? Actually, if you hover over that, it turns into a hand with two little arrows. And now if I slide it to the left, I can turn the volume down. And you can do that real time too. So you can do that as you're playing it. It's going to bring it down.
An immense world. How animal senses reveal the hidden realms around us.
Now, I typically like to only have a few seconds of music play in a piece of audio that's designed for podcasting or storytelling or something like that. I listen to these podcasts often that, there's a full minute of music and it's like, no. The music is still there. My voice came in. That's what you wanted. That's what you dialed in for, was to hear the story, hear the narrative. So don't necessarily need to have a lot of audio playing, a lot of music bed playing before the narrator speaks. This has a nice vibe to it. Anybody's voice is going to sound good over it.
An immense world. How animal senses reveal the hidden realms around us. By Ed Young. Narrated by Dan Tebow. For Liz Neely, who sees me. How do you know but every bird that cuts the airy way?
I made a couple of points there because I think the beat comes in. I think I'm going to drop this down at this point and then fade out altogether. But
for Liz Neely, who sees me.
Dedication.
How do you know but every bird that cuts the airy way is an immense world of delight.
He quotes
by your senses 5.
He quotes William Blake.
William Blake.
And now let's drop that right out.
Introduction. The only true voyage. Imagine an elephant in a room. This elephant is not the proverbial...
Okay, so, we got a little creative there. We've got some music now under my voice, adds a little color, draws the listener in. It fades out.
William Blake.
Right before the book actually starts, the first chapter.
Introduction. The only true voyage. Imagine an elephant in a room. This elephant is not the proverbial weighty issue, but an actual weighty mammal. Imagine the room is spacious enough to accommodate it. Make it a school gym. Now imagine
I got those little mouth noises and breaths everywhere. Now, here we go. This is the cork sniffing sensibilities of audio production. Do you take the noises out? Do you take there's not a lot of ums and ahs in this because there's some flub ups that we're going to have to fix, but there's not a lot of ums and ahs because I'm reading from a book. I'm just going to take this here and silence that little section there.
Make it a school gym. Now imagine a mouse has scurried in too. A robin hops alongside it. An owl perches on an overhead beam. A bat hangs upside down from the ceiling.
I'm going to silence that breath too.
On an overhead beam. A bat hangs upside down from the ceiling. A rattlesnake slithers across the floor. A spider has spun a web in a corner. A mosquito buzzes.
And by the way, you see me scrolling. I have a trackpad, and you can't see that, but I am 2-finger scrolling to the left, and that's how I'm doing that. If you're on a mouse, you're going to have to use the mouse to do that. But this is just a really convenient way to...
A mosquito buzzes through the air.
Keep it going.
A bumblebee sits upon a parted...
Okay, so the mosquito buzzes right here.
A mosquito buzzes through the air.
Let's put the mosquito sound in there. I'm going to pull open my Finder again. And in the Animals folder, FX means effects. We're going to grab the mosquito. And you know what? Let's put the mosquito on track number 3. And let's move it. Oh, I got to be in my little move tool. I think it's around here that the mosquito buzzes in.
A mosquito buzzes through the air. A bumblebee sits upon a potted sunflower.
Okay, so we just added an effect there, and the volume happened to be right. I don't think it needs to change. And where it sits could be up to you.
A mosquito buzzes through the air. A bumblebee sits upon a
You know, if I really wanted to, I could create a gap here by going to my blade tool, cutting there, and then going back to my move tool and moving that.
A mosquito buzzes through the air. A bumblebee sits.
Yeah, that works. So you can see now we're shaping and changing the ambiance of the whole piece, and we're adding things, and we've got music, and this is what audio editors typically do. I'm going to back out a little bit here. And I think this is what we did in class. I don't think we went much further than this. So in the next class, we'll probably start from this point. We'll add in the other effects. We'll make some more ripple deletes. We'll review. We'll go over this again. Let's make sure that we know how to save, though. Let's go up here to File, and let's save. So when you hit the Save button for the first time, and other times too, you're going to get this little message. One or more media files used by this multi-track session are located outside of the session folder. Would you like to copy these media files into the session folder? Isn't that nice and kind of Audition to ask you that? And you want to say yes, absolutely. And the reason is these are the extra media files that we put in, and they're not associated with this project yet. When you say yes, and now when you open your Finder and go back to the files, you will see this is the project that I just created its own folder called Dan Assignment 1 again. Remember, we did it at the beginning. Here is the project file right here. It's a .sex file. .sesx file. And it's the purple AU logo for Adobe Audition. Now, these files here are the files that got pulled in and merged, and these are the imported files afterwards. This is your lo-fi music bed. This is your mosquito flyby. This is important to know because this folder here, when you open this project up again after closing it, this is where you're going to do. You're going to come in here and you're going to double click it. But these other folders that got created with it must be in the same folder directory. They must be together, or you won't get all these other files pulled in there. So it's very important that these all are nested and sit together. And the other thing that I forgot to do in class, the first session, was to bring the orange drive. We're going to have something that looks like this. There's a bunch of them for all the different digital media classes, and I didn't bring this with me. This sits up in Mahoney in the studio in room, I can't remember. But I will bring this next time. And I really want us all to make sure that we take these drives and back them up, create a redundant drive. Every time we create something, every time we're in class together, let's make sure that we back up our drives and put them on this orange drive. You know, I mean, they're small and they can get lost very easily. There should be another place for your work that you've created, and we'll continue to do that in class. So I think that's a good place to stop right there. I know that's a lot, and if you missed class, hopefully this will help you get up to speed, and we will help each other in our next class anyway, get back up to speed. So there you go. The world is a great place with good people doing awesome things, and you're one of them. You're all part of that. At least in my world, you are. So there we go. That's session number 1.